Good afternoon. How are we today?
Good afternoon. We're good.
Good. So as mentioned, my name is Joe Black. I work with the Central Promise neighborhood, and I have the lucky honor to be here with you today for our annual address as State of the Ward, Ward 5. I am proud to say that as a homeowner in the community, as an individual who works in the neighborhood, and as an advocate for this community, we should be proud to be here today and celebrate the many successes of our community. With that being said, I would ask if Ms. Mildred Lowe would come up and do the invocation and get us started, and we will go from there. I got surprised too.
You got a surprise too. All right. I'm so loud you can hear me, right? First, I would just like to thank our Heavenly Father. I know we're of different religious persuasions. I'll get the right, that Rolodex is so slow in my mind. But I just would like to thank our Heavenly Father for allowing us to come together today, to be here in this wonderful building and to praise His name and thank Him for getting us all here together so that we can hear a report from our community, so that we can do all that we can to be better citizens, and just to thank Him for this day, the sunshine and the ability to get here today. And thank you for all who took the time out from their busy day to be part of what's going to move this ward forward. And Heavenly Father, we just like to thank you for being here today. We praise your name. We thank you for the gift of life. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you for allowing us to call on you at this moment. We greatly appreciate that. So before we get into a formal introduction of our councilwoman, I want to take an opportunity to just share why I am here before you and our goals and objectives for today. So many of you may know me from a variety of different experiences. I sit on the board of commissioners for CMHA. I work for the Sisters of Charity Foundation, focusing on education in our very own community. My work even dates back to university settlement, supporting youth in the schools, dealing with different issues. I believe in the war. I'm invested in the war, and I know many of you are as well. With that being said, our opportunities are also faced with many challenges. I see those, and I understand it is our collective effort to address that. We come here to unite to celebrate, but we must also come here to unite to work. Our councilwoman has the opportunity to lead us in that effort, and many others must do the same to support. With that being said, I want to also take the opportunity to announce and recognize many of the elected officials in the room. Majority Whip Blaine Griffin, Ward 6. Joseph Jones, Ward 1. Judge Ron O'Leary, Cleveland Housing Court. Kevin Conwell, Ward 6. Ward 9, excuse me. I know that. I live. Excuse me. Ward 9, excuse me. And State Senator Sandra Williams. Thank you, each and every one of you, not only for being present with us today, but also for committing to your communities and the city as a whole. With that being said, I also have the luxury of bringing forward our councilwoman, Mrs. Phyllis Cleveland. With that being said, I know, right? Let's do that again. Yay, Phyllis. As a resident of our community, lifelong practically, moving here at an early age and residing within a 4-block radius, Councilwoman Cleveland has worked to serve our community in a variety of different ways. As the majority leader for City Council, she pushes for us in many ways, fighting for different legislative options and opportunities that we have in front of us. Things like the right to counsel, other opportunities that exist in front of us today are all a result of her hard work. I also note that in many cases, from my own personal experience, it is not just what you see is done, it's also what you see that is not allowed to happen. Advocacy works in both ways. And I see that and I appreciate that. So as a friend, as a community leader, I gladly bring before you our City Councilwoman, Ms. Phyllis Clee.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Let me adjust I think I'm supposed to stay behind the speaker, so I may deviate, but bear with me. I'm very glad to be here. I had a couple of glitches this morning. Number one is in getting some printed materials out. It didn't work, so I don't have them, but I will provide them to you at a later point. So for everyone who's, please sign in if you want to get a copy of my remarks and what our agenda would have been for today. And I will get that to you as soon as possible. And with that, I also intended to print up my remarks, and that didn't work. And so I'm working from my iPad. And I'm fairly tech savvy, but I've never done this and worked from an iPad, so bear with me. And before I get started, just a couple of things I want to do to set the tone. This is our annual State of the Ward. I probably didn't do one last year, but I can't remember. And so what I'm going to do is just share with you my reflections on the work that we did in the past year and where we're headed in the future. The good things and the challenges that we faced as well. And so, I'll share with you my work, my view, what the results have been, and what I project going forward. And we're not going to do a Q&A session today. That's not what the State of the Ward is. This will be my narrative, and so I hope nobody takes offense to that. But I do Q&A, every month at Ward Club, and you all wear me out, so. I'll take this opportunity today to move forward. And one other thing, this is a city event. It's not a political event. So we've recognized elected officials, people who are holding office now. We're not going to do candidates. There are people in the room, and you can do your thing out of the camera view, please, today. But so just understand that, why we're doing that this way today. And I appreciate y'all for being here and, coming to hear my State of the Ward. One other thing, I would like to bring up Mr. Steve Friedman. He is with VGS, Vocational Guidance Service, and they have so willingly served as our host for our ward meetings. How long? Going back to Lonnie Burton. So, we're talking about, the mid, back to the 1980s. So they've been a good host, and they are a great partner and a great provider in this community. So I want to bring up Mr. Friedman to say a couple words.
Thank you, Phyllis. This is something new for me, but for Vocational Guidance Service, we've been a neighbor, a part of the community, reaching out. Basically, it's a training programs and services that we offer to everyone. We are offering pre- and post-employment programs for those. Programs with individuals with disability needs, or if you have to reinvent yourself due to maybe you got hurt on a job somewhere else and you need to change the type of employment. But it's going to be immediate for your goals. We have an active day service, vocational rehabilitation services, career planning services, benefits, non-medical transportation. We get you ready for the workplace, be it earning a paycheck, learning critical job-keeping skills such as clerical, custodial, manufacturing, textile services, summer youth career exploration for the younger ones to see where they want to go with their goals, individual employment support, and again, non-medical transportation. So when this comes into this education, what are the skills and training that we offer? Well, we will give you the tools needed to obtain employment, and those tools will be hands-on, work experience, instruction relevant to your curriculum. So you may be working with building maintenance we offer, customer service, computer skills, custodial services, food services, forklift training, textile services, GED classes, and again, helping with non-medical transportation. So we offer all these career services to our neighbors, to those that are outreaching, to give them a new direction, a hope that it's not over if you have to make any changes. Because we are designed to help from youth to adult, to learn effective techniques. We have community-based work experience, community-based work adjustment programs, like I said before, youth work experience, job searching skills and training, job searching skills for job placement. We also offer job coaching, individual employment supports, something very simple as reinventing yourself with your resume. So with this, we offer workforce solutions for everyone. So our solutions include on-site supervised works, in-house manufacturing, and more. Again, what you see around you in this building is food service production. We offer manufacturing across the street. We have the sewing production up top that we have been with many years, and packing and assembly. VGS is the neighborhood. VGS is the community, and that's only because of all of you. And we thank you and all that are in Ward 5 and giving the opportunity with Phyllis with this opportunity. So we thank you and we appreciate being part of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, also I'd like to acknowledge a couple of other people who are in the room right now. One of those, he's out of uniform. Jeffrey Patterson, he's the CEO of CMHA, Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. Yep. And as you all know, we have, I think, a third of all public housing in the city is right here in Ward 5, most of it in the central community. And so I have the opportunity and had the opportunity to work with Mr. Patterson for many, many years. And you know, we have a great working relationship, and I think we've done a lot of good work together that we can be proud of. So thank you for being here, Jeffrey. Also want to acknowledge Mr. Earl Pike. Wait, Earl. Earl is a longtime servant in our community in the nonprofit world, and he is currently the executive director of University Settlement. He came on about 2 years ago. And he just came in and hit the ground running and doing some great, fantastic work in the North Broadway and throughout the Slavic Village community. So Earl, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all you do. And I'll talk a little more about your big project shortly. Okay, I think that's it right now. Other people may walk in and, you know, once I start flowing, if the spirit hits me, I will acknowledge them. You know, I may, you know, shout out some people in the room already, you know, that's how it's gonna flow. So thank you. And I will say a special thank you to one of my BFFs, Cheryl, wave your hand. She introduced me at one of my previous State of the Ward addresses a few years ago, and you know, we go back a few years. Since we're probably, somewhere around 7 or 8 years old. So when you can have friends that, you know, that long, you know they're real friends. So thanks for being here always. I love you to pieces. Okay, now, State of the Ward. Well, again, I said thank you for attending my State of the Ward. I have been privileged to represent Ward 5 for 14 years now. I was first elected in 2005. Took office in 2006, and That's a long time. And, it's like dog years. And I'm only half joking, but it's because it's hard work and it's serious work. And my colleagues here can attest to, how much of a sacrifice and a grind that it really is. A lot of you see us on TV, you see ribbon cuttings, or you see us at the scene of an accident, and people think that that we're TV actors, that we play characters on TV and we show up, we just show up, and then the rest of the time we go somewhere and hide. And it's not like that at all. It is not like that at all. This is pure service, pure hard work. The people that we represent need so much. They have great needs for a number of reasons. And they look to us to fulfill those needs. And that plays out in the number of calls that we get per day. At the peak season, which is summer, we're looking at somewhere between 50, 100 calls a day or more. And that's serious. And now with the advent of email and email being so prolific, we may get that many emails as well. And then people reach out to us on social media. I have people who hit me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I don't really fool with Snapchat, but people try to contact me there as well. But people will try to reach you wherever they can reach you. And again, a lot of people have great needs, and they look to us, government at the eyeball level, to help them. We're the most accessible. We're the closest to them. We're the closest to the ground. We live where they live. We shop where they shop. We go to the barber shops and the nail shops and the beauty shops that they go to. And they see us every day. And so, and they're not afraid to approach us. They may be a little hesitant to walk up on the Congresswoman. Senator Williams, I don't know if people walk up on you a lot, but when it comes to us, we're there, and it's like you're my representative. And for whatever government need it is, it's not just the city. If they have an issue with, I have people come to me with issues with the IRS, Social Security, with their VA benefits, with their food stamps, you name it. They come to us first because they expect that we can help them. And it's not necessarily our world, but we do all that we can to help. So that means I've got to connect them to, the state or to the VA or whatever agency it is, or, help them find the help that they need. So it's truly a grind, but it's also a privilege. God doesn't place anyone in these positions, haphazardly. He put us there because he knew that we were the ones who cared, and we were the ones who were going to do the hard work. Everybody doesn't do it that way. Everybody doesn't see it that way. So I just want you to know where I come from. I still have some pretty vivid memories, and I'm getting to where I'm going. My first year in council, and that was really hard. And honestly, I didn't think I would make it through the year. I really didn't. It was just the craziest, hardest thing I got myself into. And I worked in the county, and when the county is like sword fighting. They're very polite, and I got to the city, it's like hand-to-hand combat. I'm not ready for this. This is not what I do, but you learn very quickly, or you get eaten up, and so I did. And those of you who've been around also know that for me it was also a very hard year because I lost my mother that same year, and I know my colleague Kevin Conwell has a similar experience, and it's just the hardest thing when you turn your life upside down to enter into a public elected office, and then have a big part of your foundation ripped away from you. It's very hard. It was very hard, and again, I just a lot of days I didn't know how or if I would make it, but here I am. Here I am. And a big part of that is because public service, I think, is what I was born to do, what I was put on earth to do. And not necessarily, as a council person, but ever since I was a kid, I always found myself helping people. And by the time I was a teenager, I was helping older adults. I helped my mother when she had stuff to do and business to transact with Social Security or some other organization. Other relatives and friends, again, they brought things to me to help them figure out. And so it's just what I did. And at the age of 21, I actually started working for the federal government, for the Social Security Administration. And so that really made me the personal representative for a lot of older relatives. One of my aunts, whenever she and her friends had a discussion about Social Security, she said, well, you need to talk to my niece. You talk to my niece. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. But again, I felt that was a privilege. That was a privilege. If I wasn't there, then maybe there wouldn't be somebody there who would care enough to take the time and listen and work through and walk through what they needed to walk through. But again, coming to council, you become the center and the focus of other people's desires and their needs and their adoration and their hate. It comes with the territory. And amen. Judge Gail Williams Byers has entered the room. Thank you, Judge. Thank you for being here. And Gail's my girl, okay? I just have to say that. So, I wasn't used to the politics part, but I was used to the governance and the service. And so it took some time. And again, I didn't think I'd make it, but thank God I did. Matter of fact, thank you, Jesus, I did.
Amen.
Yeah, please bear with me because I usually use the paper. I don't like this when it comes to speaking. There's a few other things, and again, I got to give you some background because some of you know me from way back, and others, don't know my story. And I think you need to know my story to understand what I do and why I do it, and why I do it the way I do it. I'm a Central girl. I've lived in Central just about my entire life, all but 4 years. Before that, we lived on Army bases, for 4 years. I lived in Hawaii and Massachusetts and Fort Knox, Kentucky, and Fort Devens, Massachusetts. But again, all of that was before I was 4 years old, so I don't remember none of that now. But Cleveland is what I know, and Cleveland is a part of me. And so I've lived in the same 4-block radius. Joe mentioned that. Started out on the East 40th Street in the old Carver Park, Mr. Patterson, in the row houses. I went to R.B. Hayes School, right on the corner of 40th and Central. Probably many of you in the room don't even know, never heard of it. It burned down the year after I graduated from the summer after I graduated from 6th grade, and I know nothing. I know nothing. I was babysitting that summer. It wasn't me. And I think the statute of limitations had expired. And then from there, most of you know, I spent the majority of my life in Longwood. And, I'm a Longwood girl through and through, proud of it. And I lived in Longwood for 35 years. And, I'm not even that old. And I lived in Longwood 35 years, so. And then I bought a house. I was blessed to be able to buy a house in 2000. And I moved right across the street from Longwood, so I stayed in the same neighborhood. But it's where I wanted to be. It's really where I wanted to be. And I felt that I was destined to be there. I had a lot of opportunities to move out and go to the suburbs. Everybody said, move, you need to move. By then I had gone to college, gotten my Bachelor of Arts in English, and I got my law degree. And, people were like, you need to move. My father was definitely, you need to be out of there. He was concerned for our safety and our well-being, but I lived in a good part of the neighborhood with good neighbors, great neighbors, and people who watched my back. And so, and I never wanted to leave. I went through and I looked at houses all over, even bid on a couple of houses, and I think the Lord was looking out because, those things, they didn't work out. Cheryl, she went through that with me. And I finally looked up on a house one day, and it belonged to the parents of my friend, Juan Elliott. Is Juan still? He's in the back of the room. I bought his parents' house, and it was just, to me, it was a castle because it was my own, but it was in my own neighborhood as well. And it allowed me to be that example I wanted to be for the younger people, to say, it doesn't matter where you live, because people would tell you that, but I'm proof of it. It doesn't matter where you live. I went to Case Western Reserve. Well, I went to Brandeis University out of high school, out of East Tech. That's in Massachusetts. Came back home, I went to Case Western Reserve. I got a Bachelor of Arts, I mentioned, and a law degree, all when I lived at 2553 East 38th Street in Longwood. So you tell somebody. And I really felt I had a special calling or destiny to improve the neighborhood I grew up in. I believe that the Bible saying, to those whom much is given, much is required. And it was just embedded in my heart. And so, I came up in Central in a time where there had been no investment and no development in Central in probably decades. Well, in decades. And I would guess to say probably the 30s or 40s. Nothing was put into Central. Everything was taken out from that point on. People moved out. The people with jobs and businesses moved out. Properties were torn down. The freeway system was built, and the freeway, cut off the community and isolated the neighborhood, from the lifeblood of the city. And that was a conscious policy decision. Just like redlining, just like blockbusting, and the other things we hear about, that's a very strong example of policy made at the federal and local and state level that impacted our lives in a negative way and was designed to do so. But, and I grew up in the Central in a time where nobody believed in Central, except for the people that lived in Central, except for the people that lived there. And there were some great people. We know there's some great people from the community. Our own Carl and Lewis Stokes, Mayor Stokes, and Judge. Mayor Stokes also became a judge, but Congressman Lewis Stokes, was still very involved in the community up until the end. He had a very strong affinity for Alfred A. Bennett, which was renamed, for Central, which was renamed Carl and Lewis Stokes Academy. And when the school district decided to close the schools, he decided, well, I don't want my name on the building. I don't know what you're going to do unless, he told me, I'll leave it to you, but if it's something good for the community and if it's educational, you can use our name, but otherwise take my name off of it. But he cared so much for the community, and he and the Honorable Judge Sarah Harper, and they were all from Outhwaite, and Judge Sarah Harper opened a children's library in the Outhwaite Community Center. And again, they both advocate strongly for the residents and the children of Outhwaite. And so we have some, again, strong people from the community. My judge, Judge Jean Merle Capers, who passed away 2 years ago at the age of 104? I think 104. Okay. Okay. As you know, she was a city council member elected in the 1940s, and then she later served as a municipal judge. Great lady. And for me, I never could have imagined as a child that I would grow up one day and work with people like that I looked up to. And so it was something. And then, of course, there's Lonnie Burton. If you all don't know about Lonnie Burton, you need to look him up and read his story. Lonnie was, he was something. And he was a different kind of dude. He was a real different kind of dude. Lonnie would walk around sometimes in the summertime with a long black coat and black boots. And, he would walk around the neighborhood and he would talk to people and he would tell you what was on his mind and what he was thinking. And I used to think, initially, he kind of scared me. So this dude is a little too much for me. But when you talk to him, you really got to understand, he was a real intellectual. He was a public intellectual. He was an academic intellectual, and he was a visionary. And he was one of the first people who went around this neighborhood to people who were still homeowners and said, don't sell your property. And if you can, buy some of this vacant land that's here now. Because one day it's going to be worth something. Because, This is valuable land that we sit on. This is prime land. And everybody that grew up in Central knew, we grew up knowing that we sat on prime land. And that, they wanted our land. Y'all know who they is. Y'all know. And so we grew up knowing that. And so, what Lonnie started to do was to really codify that belief that Central is ours. And for it to be ours, we needed to control the land, and we needed to make decisions and determine our own destiny. And he was the first to really plant that seed. And unfortunately, of course, he died, way too soon and way too young. But he saw what this community could become. And fortunately, one of his disciples came along and took up the mantle, Frank Jackson. And so the things that the mayor was able to carry out as councilman, consolidating land into the hands of the community by way of the Community Development Corporation, Burton Bell Carr. Hi, Tim. And Tim wasn't there at that time, but again, he put in place the mechanism so that we could control that property. And ultimately, what we have now is a rebuilt Central community. Our public housing in Central, for the most part, looks great. It is great. I was in Altoid the other day, Mr. Patterson, and they keep saying, "What about us? What about us?" But I know you're doing Woodhill right now in Ward 6, and my colleague Blaine Griffin's ward, but Altoid said, "Don't forget about us." But again, most of the public housing, you look at King Kennedy, New Carver, and now Sankofa, which used to be Cedar Extension. The public housing is very high quality, very well done, and it looks nice. It looks, Heritage View, I'm sorry, I forgot them, the old Garden Valley. There you go, Ms. Fain. The public housing looks good, and it goes to the belief that, poor people deserve to live in good quality, clean, safe, dry housing like anyone else. And thank you to Mr. Patterson for sharing that belief and championing that belief. And so, I come from a time and a place where community meant everything. Family, neighborhood, school, church, business. They're all connected and all dependent on each other for survival. And when one of those links is weakened, what used to happen is that the other links kind of filled in the gap. But today, in many of our communities, all of the links are weakened. The family is struggling, the neighborhoods are struggling, the schools are struggling, the churches are struggling, and a lot of our businesses aren't doing well also. And so we're at a time where we are forced to reconnect the links. It's time for us to repair and strengthen and recreate the social, cultural, and economic fabric of our communities. If we don't do that, then we're doomed. We are doomed. And there's no other way to say it. This city will be doomed. And don't take it for granted that everyone is of the same mind and everyone wants to see the city grow and thrive for everyone, because that's not true. There are a lot of people who are making a lot of money off of poverty and sickness and illness and crime. There are a lot of people. And so while ostensibly they say the right things, you look at what they're doing, and some decisions that are being made, and some of the other things that are happening will show you that they're not acting in the best interest of the city of Cleveland. They're acting in their own best interest. And so it's time for us to come together and do what we need to do across all neighborhoods, across all wards, to make sure that our city not only survives, but thrives. Our children need us to do that. Now, one of the biggest issues and obstacles that we have right now in the city is safety. You know, we had a horrendous September, horrendous. There were 21 murders and numerous shootings and other stabbings and violent attacks perpetrated by one member of the community on another. And the people committing the crimes are getting younger and younger. You know, we're seeing children do things that, you know, we never would have imagined. And one of the most frequent questions I get asked, you know, when I'm out and about or in the meeting and in this room is, you know, what are you going to do about it? Well, Councilman Jones, one of the first things I say, number one, I don't have a badge and a gun, but I work very closely with the people who do. I work very closely with the people who do. And I want to say a shout out to our police officers here in the room. I'm a lieutenant from the 4th District, and we have our community engagement officers from the 3rd District. And Malcolm, I hope you don't mind, but I'm gonna give you a little special shout out. Malcolm Sutton Nichols, can you stand up just for a moment? Now let me tell you who Malcolm's mother is, Jackie Sutton. So Malcolm, I think he lives in Ward 6, Ward 7, but he's still on the bus. You know, as you all know, Jackie was the mayor's longtime assistant, and also she leads the Mayor's Action Center now in taking citizen complaints. So, look, Malcolm, Ryan, Lieutenant, all of you, thank you so much. So the first step is, you know, with crime, it starts with police, and it doesn't end there, but it starts there. And this is where all the technology really started to mess up. But the first line, you know, in terms of crime in the streets, you know, the first stop is law enforcement. I encourage everyone in this room, if you see something, say something. That's been the common mantra. You know, we have a code among some people in our community, a code of silence, you know, the no snitching, or, you know, you go in your house and close your curtains and it's not my business as long as it's not, you know, on my doorstep, but one day it will be on your doorstep. And, you know, who's gonna help you? So the first step is see something, say something. The other thing is I want to advocate is that every police district has a community relations board, and is there and is designed to foster good relationships between the community and the police department. And we know we've had some issues over the past few years, but we have been working on those issues through the consent decree that the city entered into with the Department of Justice to make some major reforms in the Cleveland Division of Police. And those things include the screening process, determining who gets hired to be a police officer, how they're trained, what type of training. There's an emphasis on bias-free policing, and that means, you know, trying to take the subjective elements out of police work. You know, sometimes people have conceptions or stereotypes about people in certain neighborhoods, you know, based on, you know, let's face it, skin color and what they know and what they see. And so, you know, we're training police officers today to be better judges of what's going on in the neighborhood, and not to judge so much by race, but learn to pick up other things that are indicators of crime or indicators of what's going on in the neighborhood. And so the consent decree is, you know, one of those tools that, you know, we are using to reform the police department and have better trained, better motivated police officers on our streets. There are a couple other things going on too. You know, technology is real important in law enforcement. We have shot sensor. What is shots?
Gun sensor technology.
Gun sensor technology. Okay. Now, what that is it's a type of software that can, you know, when shots are fired in a particular area, the software can detect where the shots originated and get that information to the police, and then the police can go to that area and do what they need to do. I mean, they still have to investigate. They still have to come out and do their physical look and see what's going on. But it's a great tool because I can tell you now, I hear gunshots a lot, in my neighborhood. But I can't always tell where they came from. I'm thinking, okay, it sounded like over here. And my daughter said, well, I thought it came from over there. And so you can call the police and say, well, I heard shots, but I really don't know where they came from. But with the technology, they can detect, the technology can pinpoint where the shots came from. And that's a big help and a big leg up to the officers when they investigate a call about shooting. Another thing is that the city is installing LED lights throughout the city. You may have heard about that in the news. And so those LED lights are wonderful. In fact, to some people, they're too good because they light up your house, and some people complain they can't sleep, the lights in their bedroom, or, it messes with your TV and things like that. But so, they're working on making adjustments, but it's a great, great tool because most criminals don't operate in the light. They operate in the dark where they can't be seen, which makes sense. And so, the lights are being rolled out, in a couple of neighborhoods at a time, and ultimately, finally, the lights will be throughout the city. The other thing people are asking about are surveillance cameras. And you may have heard about that as well, in the news. And, what we got is a camera program that's going to roll out over the next 5 years. And it's going to roll out in 3 phases. And the initial phase with the cameras they were centered around city infrastructure, meaning around city property and buildings. And so, a lot of our colleagues, we had questions and issues about that. But I can understand because the infrastructure is there, you don't have to build it. And you can place cameras on rec centers and city property, with very little installation costs compared to where you're gonna have to actually create a vehicle for the cameras to go to. And initially I had a problem because I was looking at the rec centers and this and that, but what I really start to look at is not where the cameras were placed, but what the cameras will capture. And then I realized I was looking at the list in Ward 6, the Fairfax Recreation Center. All your cameras point to my ward. So I'm good with that. I am real good with that. So, you hear a lot of fussing and, from our colleagues, and that happens all the time, because we like to fuss. But just understand that, this is just the initial rollout. Again, and the initial rollout, I think it's 1,100 cameras. So, the second and third phases of those cameras will be going in other locations. And those are locations that we help select based on what you, the residents, told us where you need cameras and where things are happening and where you have dark spots and hidden spots. And so, these are all the tools, a highly trained police force, the latest technology, state-of-the-art lights and cameras, and then collaboration among law enforcement. We have the strike force that's been created where Cleveland Police and all of the other major law enforcement agencies, the ABCs of law enforcement, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, I think the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, help me out with the FBI, Department of Justice, are all working together to deal with the crime and the violence that's happening in the community. And so, again, you got collaboration, technology, highly skilled, highly trained police force. But we know that deals with crime once it happens, for the most part. We also have to look at the prevention side. And the reality is, crime is a symptom. Crime doesn't exist in and of itself by itself. It's a symptom of greater problems in society, systemic racism, poverty, and those things. And so until we are able to really effectively deal with those things, you're always going to have crime. You're always going to have problems. And so we got to balance strong, vigorous law enforcement, which I do support, and I think most people in the community do support. But you got to balance that with prevention, prevention methods, and also trying to deal effectively with conditions in our communities. And so, and to that end, one of the things that the mayor is doing, has done, is he's transforming our recreation centers from just places of play to holistic community centers. And what that means is that each rec center will become a trauma center in its own right. They'll be staffed with counselors who are experienced at detecting kids who are suffering from trauma, and probably adults too, and helping connect them with the help that they need. A lot of people, that's where they spend their time. A lot of kids, they spend time in those rec centers. And so those are the people who will naturally spot where the problems are. And so, that's one of the things that the mayor has come up with. We've got a program working with the Department of Justice that'll be implemented in the central neighborhood. It's in its planning phases right now, and it's going to be rolled out, I think, next year. So as I get more information to share with you, I will share that with you. We also have, others who work in the community all the time. Community relations, on our community relations board, we have members who work with young people in the community. They're on the ground with them every day. When they're during school times, they're there just when they get out of school, when they're going to school, and sometimes in the schools. And during vacation times, they work with them in the neighborhood, and so they get to know the young people, and they help connect them with services that they need. And I know CMHA has the program, the PAR program, the Police Assistance Referral Program. When the CMHA police make a call to a house, they may come and see that, there's no food in the refrigerator, or there's no furniture in the home. So they can connect that family with the help that they need. And so we have the Peacemakers Alliance, and the Peacemakers have sort of changed their mission. And so now they're working more on a case management model, and they're meeting young people, in emergency rooms, when they're getting shot. And so they're going to the hospitals, and they're based in the emergency rooms. And so they see a young person who comes in who's been shot and was suspected to be a gang type activity. And so they can connect with the young person right then and there, and then try to help them and connect them again with the services they need. So it's taking an all-around approach, And so, so when people ask me what you're doing about it, they get the long answer. I'm doing what I can, but this is what's happening out here, and what you gonna do? What you gonna do? It's gonna take all of us. I'm one person, and I can't take on all of the global economic problems that the world has created, but I'm gonna do my part. But we all have to do ours, and we have to become again the community we used to be. We looked out for each other, we had each other's back, and we did what we could, not only for that individual, but for the good of the community. We had a community standard and a community ethic, and it's no longer there, Ms. Lowe, right? It's no longer there. So that's crime. One of the other big issues that we're facing in Ward 5, many of you know that we lost our grocery store. And again, that's one of the biggest, the second most frequently asked question. Sometimes the most frequently asked question, when are we gonna get another store? And I would love to say tomorrow, but it's not that easy. And seriously, what happened is that, Dave's made a business decision. Dave's is a family business. They made a decision that was in the best interest of their family. And I'm not mad at them for that, but it was a big hurt to the community. To Arbor Park and the surrounding central community, but also to, the Payne community, St. Clair Superior, and people that went to the Payne store. And so what I will tell you is that, oh, my timekeeper just hit me. And I'm just getting started. But what I would tell you is that we are working very hard to get a grocery store back at Arbor Park Plaza. Mr. Trammell and I, we know how important it is to the community. There's no other store that sells fresh produce, fresh meat, nutritious food that a Dave's or another grocery store sells. We've got many dollar stores, We got a proliferation of dollar stores throughout our community. And it's, they serve their purpose, but they also create a lot of problems as well. Because quite frankly, they're robbery magnets. People, that seems to be, their target practice for, armed robberies. They sell a lot of unhealthy food, and it's cheap, so people are tempted, to make their dollars go farther, and so they go there. And I understand. When you can't go somewhere else and you don't have enough, money, or you don't have transportation to go somewhere else, then you do that. So, I know my colleague, Councilman Griffin, had proposed doing a moratorium on dollar stores in our neighborhood. And not that we're trying to get rid of all of them, but we just don't want to have so many. Because it also makes it difficult to get a grocery store. Because, they keep grocery stores from coming in the neighborhood. And so, but we are working on that. And I know Tim is very determined, and I am determined that we will get a store. I can't give you the time limit, time frame, and we can't give out names. You can't name who you're negotiating with or talking to. So, but just know that we are working on that. I'm very concerned about it. And honestly, I miss the store. That's where I saw everybody. That's where I started. I could run around the corner and get a couple of things, but I knew I was guaranteed to run into people, and that was important. Because it kept me connected, and people let me know what was on their minds about other things. And so again, that Dave's was also a community gathering place. And also, and we need the rent at the Arbor Park Plaza, quite frankly. So, okay, now there's a couple other things I really need to share with you. This council, this session has really done some heavy legislative work. And that's really what our primary function is, although we get to do other things, and we will continue to do other things. We have a very serious charge to be the legislators and policymakers for the city of Cleveland. And I want to mention just a couple of things that this council has passed. And one is a right to counsel for eviction hearings. Right now, if you go and sit in 3A eviction court, you'll see a packed room every day. And you'll see landlords and property owners who have lawyers, and residents who are in danger of being evicted, most of them women with children with no lawyers. And the deck is stacked when that happens. And that's not to say that's something underhanded, but you can't go into a courtroom with somebody who's represented by a lawyer and expect to have a fair shot. It just doesn't happen. And what we found, Legal Aid did research and found that out of, on an average of 9,000 evictions over the past few years, about 60% of those were women with children, who are, again, about to lose their housing. So New York and a couple of other cities are doing some work and had actually, come up with right to counsel laws. And so, I'm really glad we took that project on, and I can give a shout out to my sister friend, Judge Gail Williams-Byers. She was, very involved in doing some research and working with some folks from George Washington University. And so she's linking us up with some resources to help make that a stronger reality. We've already passed the legislation. We got to find a way to pay for it now. Lead, another big issue, another big nut that this council passed this term. And my colleague Blaine Griffin, I'm saying your name a lot, Blaine. Okay. I work with all my colleagues, but we passed legislation in September to ensure that eventually every child in this community will live in a lead-safe property. Lead-free, we can't guarantee, but a lead-safe property. And so it's going to take some steps, and it's going to take some work, and it also takes some funding, because we're not trying to burden landlords and property owners, but we know the damage that lead poisoning does to children under the age of 6. And that that damage can be lifelong. And some of the problems that we see with crime and some of the irrational crime happening in our community, I bet if those young people were tested, they will test, for lead poisoning in their bloodstream. And so it's a very, very, very important, significant piece of legislation that we passed for our community. So again, great work, and led again by our colleague Blaine Griffin in Ward 6. We've done some significant work on preventing and decreasing infant mortality as well. And again, that's another problem that impacts poor communities and Black babies in particular. And so again, another big legislative coup for Cleveland City Council. One thing I do want to mention. One other thing I do want to mention. There's some things going on. We got an election coming up, November 5th, just in a couple of weeks. I think everybody knows, you've gotten stuff in the mail, you're getting campaign literature on your door and things like that. But again, this is not political, so I'm not going to get into that. But what I can get into is to encourage everyone here to vote for Tri-C on the ballot. They have to come back to the voters every 4 years to get their levy renewed, and so this is the year. What issue is that, Erica? Issue 3. So I can't say it. Vote for issue 3. Vote for issue 3. Tri-C, is one of the most important institutions, I think, in the state of Ohio. They have something for everyone, and it is critical. We can't afford for them to lose one single penny in their mission in educating and retraining our young people and workers in the community. So, Eric, absolutely. So, Erica, thank you for being there. I know that. Okay, they're giving me they're trying to rush me, and I'm trying to rush. I know, but again, just stop by Erica's table, get some literature, and be sure and tell somebody to vote for issue 3. And also, stop by and get information from Mr. Friedman on VGS. I mean, he laid out a laundry list of things that VGS provides for the community, and they've got something for everybody. He said, coaching, and I'm thinking, okay, that might be something good for me. Okay. But there's another important issue coming up. It won't be on the November ballot, but I've talked about it before at our ward meetings, but it may be coming soon to a theater near you, and that's council reduction. There are people out here who are not Clevelanders, who are suburban business people, who have been circulating petitions to reduce the size of Cleveland City Council. And from what I hear, they have the signatures, or they're very close to getting the signatures that they need to force that issue on the ballot. Now, people are upset and angry and frustrated about government and what it does and what it doesn't do. And so, they sign, oh, sure, I'll sign it. Yeah, we need to get rid of them. And people don't think they're being emotional and impulsive, It's one thing, if you're dissatisfied with your representative, then, you work on getting rid of the representative. You don't do away with the representation altogether.
No, that's right.
Yeah, so again, from what I'm hearing, it may be happening, as early as the first quarter of next year. And so we will all keep you posted on that. But it's very important because you got to look at who's behind something. When somebody brings an idea to you, you look at who it comes from. And someone who's, rich suburban business person, are they acting in the best interest of the average citizen in the city of Cleveland? Oh, right. And so there may come a time when we have to fight that fight, and fight to maintain our representation. And what they're proposing is ridiculous. They're proposing cutting city council from 17 to 9. So that means, even if you don't like me, you may get somebody Worser. Worser. Yes, but you don't know how, we don't know how the wards will be cut up. I don't know if I'll be merged with Blaine and Kevin Conwell, or, it may be with Ward 7. We have no idea, but, most of us, love or hate, we want our own councilman. We want somebody who's closer to our community and understands our community and our needs and our neighborhoods. And so, so why would you vote to have less representation? Think about that. Think about that. And they're still out circulating petitions. So if somebody comes to you with a petition, and read what it says, number one. And if you don't understand what it says, don't sign it. And the same going for that, that utility stuff. I don't even understand that. So I'm not signing nothing. I'm not signing nothing. Yeah. So, but please, again, be alert, be aware. If it comes to pass, it could be as early as next spring. We have a super Tuesday in March 17th.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day.
St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day next year.
So, it could be then, it could be sooner from what I'm hearing. So we will keep you posted, but just understand that's coming, where it's coming from, and do the research yourself. And I think you come to the same conclusion. This is not in my best interest as a resident of the city of Cleveland. A couple other things, and I just want to talk a little bit more specifically about the ward. And I know they rushing me, but as always, there are challenging things going on in the ward. We talked about crime. We still have way too many vacant and abandoned houses. Although I will say that we've had more vacant and abandoned houses torn down in Central and in Broadway over the last 10 years. And then we've had several torn down in the Broadway neighborhood over the past year. We have a couple of major coups. If you all remember the Fresh Start property on East 55th, hulking monster. It was finally torn down in December and January, and so now we got a nice, clean lot next to East Tech, and not that scary nuisance property. And we're getting a lot of properties torn down. One of the initiatives that we're doing with respect to demolition is the safe routes to schools, and so there's a preference and a priority on getting rid of the vacant and abandoned houses that are near and along school routes that our children walk to and from school every day. And so there's a real big emphasis on that. But again, we are working as hard as we can to make sure that every vacant and abandoned property that is a nuisance gets torn down. Now, every vacant property is not a nuisance. And some of them, with a little bit of mothballing and some TLC can be repurposed into a home for someone else. And we're not trying to get rid of those, but we try to preserve those and make sure that they don't thank you, Magistrate Beaudry, deteriorate, any further. So we work very hard to do that. And just with the sheer numbers involved, it's very hard and it's very costly. And I think over the last, 9 or 10 years, we've easily spent somewhere in the area of, $10 to $15 million on demolition of properties. Now, you might say where, but it takes on average somewhere around $8,000 to $10,000 to demolish an average house. If it's an extra large home, it costs more, and if it's a commercial industrial property, it really takes a significant amount of money to demolish. And so the Fresh Start property here on 55th, it costs well over $150,000 when you include remediating the asbestos from it. And so it's harder and harder to do those, but we're working on that. One of the properties in the Broadway neighborhood, right across from the Finn Cafe, we just had a ribbon cutting for a new park there, Harding Park. And the city went in and cleaned it up. It's a huge park that nobody used because lot of people didn't even know it was there, number one, but and it was just nothing there. And so there's some new swing sets. You know, they put down the new ground and flooring so that kids, when they fall, they don't break their heads open. And but we looked, and there was this big atrocious building standing there right on the opposite of the park. And so, okay, we think a next move, okay, we got to get this down. And not that I haven't been trying, but we really got to get it down. If we're going to invest money in a park, then you got to get rid of all the nuisance around it. And fortunately, it was already in the works. And Monday morning, Chris Alvarado and I were calling down to Building and Housing, and lo and behold, it was already, it's already on the calendar for design review because it has to go through a process. And it should be torn down probably, right after the first 3 years. So we're working on it, but it's always, it's a challenge. It's a financial challenge, and there's a process. You can't just go and tear it down just because you want to, because it's ugly and it looks bad. You have to give notice to the owner of the property. And people aren't, just like, certified mail, people are not trying to get notices of nothing bad. When you try to serve them with something like that, they're not trying to do that. They're not trying to get that. And so, and they will often transfer the property into another name. And so you got to start over, and it sets you back. And so people, know and play those games. And so, that's sort of what we're working against as well. But we are trying our best. And for any vacant properties, any long-time properties, please bring that to my attention. Anywhere in the ward, or if you see somewhere else, sometimes I see things in other wards, or people, you have relatives and friends and live in other wards, and they'll call you instead of calling their council person, and we will make sure and share the information. So we know, we got challenges, but there's some things that I want to highlight that are really good in our community, and these last couple of weeks have been really good in Ward 5. I mentioned Harding Park, and that's going to be great for the community, and I'm looking forward to next year when we can do some serious programming over there in that neighborhood. On a downside in that neighborhood, we are probably going to lose Willow Elementary School. Many of you have heard of decisions made by the school district regarding the closing of high schools, and that's a very challenging situation. The reality is that we have more buildings than we have students. The mighty, big Cleveland School District we once had, is down to less than, a little over 30,000 students, I think. A little over 30,000 students, high school students in Cleveland School District. And so it's very hard to justify having a building where you got 200 students. When you look at what it costs to run a building, operate a building, heat a building, or cool a building, and pay for utilities, it's hard to justify that cost. And so there's some very, very hard decisions, that the district is recommending. And I know for a lot of those, we're not happy about those. I know East Tech is not one of the schools slated to be closed. Yeah, I'm glad about that. But I feel bad for the other neighborhoods because it leaves a void. It really leaves a void. And so, we have to figure out what's best for the community, what's best for the children, what's best for the district, and what's best for our neighborhoods. And so, how do we repurpose those buildings that are closed, or secure them, or can we get them torn down and maybe market that as another developable site? So, these are, some of the other decisions that we're faced with. Again, I mentioned we had a really good couple of weeks in Ward 5. And I don't know if any of you here were at the ribbon cutting for the box fight. But that was a great event. I think TV20 was there, so it'll be on TV20 soon. And I think some of the news stations were there as well. But for those of you who don't know, it's a retail center, a small retail center built out of shipping containers. And this is a brainchild of Mr. Tramboy Burton Bell Carr. And it is really phenomenal. It's striking, it's iconic, and it's beautiful, and if you go by at night, it's really, it's something. It is something to behold. But it's all, what's even more important is that it's giving business people in this community, small business people in our community, retail and office space that they can afford. With small businesses, they don't have access to the capital that larger businesses have. And so this gives them an opportunity and an attractive space where people can come and buy their goods and services and meet with them. And they can afford to, in turn, reinvest in their business and eventually grow. And I think the notion is some of them, eventually they will grow out of the box spot because they'll be doing so well, they'll be able to get a larger space in another area, and then we can bring someone else in. So again, it's just a great program, and I just want to give real big kudos to Mr. Tramble for I also want to mention the radio station, WOVU. We have the only community radio station. And it's in the shopping center. And, a lot of people from all over the city come and use the radio station and do programming on the radio station. And it's really a place where people can come and learn not only the on-air aspects, but also the technical and production aspects. So again, it's a great vehicle for the community. Another skill building tool that we have in our belt. And so again, I'm just very proud of WOVU 95.9 FM on the radio. But Tim won't let me get my own show. Okay, we have the restaurant there also. For years it was Bridgeport Cafe, and Burton Bill Carr got out of the restaurant business late last year, and fortunately we had people in the community who were interested in Mr. Akin Africa and his brother Sean, his brother Sean, and they are the Angie's family. Angie's, I think it was their mother, and they have Zanzibar restaurant in Shaker Square and Zanzibar downtown. So they are already experienced restaurateurs, and they had an interest in reinvesting in the neighborhood, and so that is such a wonderful thing, and I'm grateful to that. I'm grateful for that. And I wanted to, we got some other projects. I'm going to cut it kind of short because I got a list of things the projects I wanted to highlight. And if I had my technology right, I would have had drawings and renderings that you could look at your own leisure. But we got some real cool things coming. We're going to be building homes on Colfax Avenue. I don't know if we're going to break ground this year. In the spring, okay, in the spring on Colfax Avenue, 28 homes. 28 homes. They're going to be beautiful. We got housing coming to Midtown on Euclid Avenue. As you know, I have part of Midtown. From East 55th on the south side up to East 77th, including the Aldi's. So that's how far Ward 5 extends. And so we got housing coming there in the town. We got a project, the Warner Swayze building, right on 46 and Carnegie, that big hulking monstrosity. And we actually had a developer under contract for a couple of years, and they've been doing some due diligence and some structural work. And they really feel good that they will be able to do something, with that property, either with the building or without it. But it's a great site. It's right on 55th and Carnegie. I'm 55th and Carnegie, not 46. It's a great location, and if they're not able to repurpose the building, that's a great prime piece of land. So we got some significant opportunities there. We're looking at what to do with the old juvenile court building, with the campus district. We had a lot of fits and starts with that, and so we were at a point where we have to make some decisions on the future of the building itself. We got interest from some people who want to put a movie studio in the ward. So there are a lot of ideas, a lot of people biting, and I'll say more about those when I've got more information that I can really share with you. What I'll close with is another property that I'm really just very, very happy about, a project I'm happy about, and that's the Slavic Village Gateway. Some of you may have seen it on social media. If you haven't, go to social media, go to University Settlement's Facebook page. And again, this is the first significant development in North Broadway since St. Michael's Hospital left the community. University Settlement is one of our oldest settlement houses, and along with Friendly Inn, and they're at 49th and Broadway in a property that doesn't really serve their mission well and serve their clients well. And Earl just, came with this idea one day, and it was like, by the time he came to me, it's like the train was already moving, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, hold up, let me jump on. But what it will be is a beautiful building right on Broadway in the St. Michael's Hospital site with University Settlement's offices and campus on the first floor, and how many? 90 units of affordable housing on the upper 3 floors, as well as a couple of townhouses in the community. And so the renderings are beautiful. It's going to be such a striking development right on Broadway. And it's gonna, well, it's already, there's already a lot of interest in Broadway, and I've been telling people that it's just that it's a matter of timing. And, when I first got in office, I kind of learned from what happened to Central. Some things have to happen. You almost have to bottom out, for lack of a better word. But you need to have, because you're going to need a fresh slate of land to work with. And it's difficult for people in the community. It's hard to live through. But, once you go through that process, you got land, you got developers, you got vision, you got ideas. And I think our biggest problem is going to be managing the growth and the investment in the neighborhood, Earl. That's my concern, because the one thing I believe in and what I learned from the mayor is, we can invest in the neighborhood, but we do not displace people. And so whatever we do in the neighborhood, we want to make it good for not just the new people coming in, but for the people who stayed. And so, that's my commitment. Opportunity corridor, last thing. Okay, I'll be nice about it, because it's happening. But we know how the community felt about it. The community wasn't in favor of it. The people felt like this was just another one of those projects that's going to be for other people, and people in the community aren't going to get any benefit from it. Opportunity for whom? That was my favorite line. And so the road is paid for. The road is done pretty much. It's in phase 3. They'll complete construction in 2021 or 22 or 23 or whatever, but it's paid for. It's done. The contractor proposing is there, and the subcontractors are all in place, and that's moving on, and that's fine. But the real question is, what about the surrounding neighborhood? That's how they sold it to the community, that this is going to help your neighborhood. When we put this roadway in, it's going to help you. It's going to bring housing. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring development. It's going to bring investment. And then the state made no commitment to any of those things. And so, I have to say that every time I get a chance to talk about it. But we are working, nevertheless, in our neighborhoods. We already had plans. We were already working, and we never stopped doing what we thought was right for our communities. And so, in Fairfax, they're doing great things. In our part of Opportunity Corridor, actually the biggest part, which is both parts of Kinsman and the Hyacinth, the Slavic Village are both in my ward. And so we're going ahead with that plan, what the people in the community want to see. And so with Hyacinth, we don't have anything definite yet. We're looking at transit-oriented development, and that means development in light of the rapid station there, because that's going to be a big hub, even bigger hub, especially once the roadway is complete. And what we're doing now is engaging in a process, a very exciting process in the Slavic Village community of building an eco-district, a neighborhood founded on the principles of equity, resilience, and climate control. And again, it's a very exciting process, and we're training residents. We'll be training residents in those principles as well. And everyone together will plan for the future of the neighborhood. And so I just really look forward to that process. Let me backtrack for a minute. Ms. Armstrong, the director, Friendly Ann, I just want to say acknowledge her as well, and I didn't do that earlier. So thank you for bearing with me. The technology kind of, the glitches kind of threw me off, because otherwise I'd have been flowing. But I just wanted to share with you my view, what I've been doing, and what we've been doing, and the important work going on. But also just to come back to you and say thank you for your support. Thank you for your good wishes. I even say thank you to the haters, because they keep you on your game. They keep you on your game. And I mean, you all have been treated me exceptionally well, and I certainly appreciate that. And I'm just asking you to let's stay the course. If we can all dig a little deeper and do just a little bit more, I think we can really advance this neighborhood and this ward. Not just Central, but Broadway. This is Broadway's time. I firmly believe that, and Midtown, and downtown, and the campus district. This is all a part of Ward 5 and the Kinsman Garden Valley. We got great things going on in all the neighborhoods, and so I just feel so privileged to be your leader at this time, at this juncture in history. We got some pretty exciting things coming. Stay tuned. Stay with me, and I want to say thank you to my crew, Gerald, Sherry, Scott, David, hey Deborah. Brenda couldn't be here today. She's a little under the weather, but a special thank you. You got a crew of people who work with you and for you, and are determined to never let you fall or fail. God is really blessing you. So I'm grateful for all you do and all your hard work. Everybody who came out today, took the time out to come, I thank you for being here. Please go back and share the word, share the message. Something that you heard today with somebody else in the community. Hope you can inspire them to come out and be a part of what we're doing. Next month, we will be here on our regular second Saturday for Ward Club. So y'all, you can bring your questions. Bring your questions in. We'll be back at our regular format. And in December, as you all know, is our annual holiday party. I think we got the best party. Yeah, Kevin, we got the best party. We look forward to you being there, and we could certainly use some volunteers to help us, finish putting that together. So if you're interested, please say something to Sherry before you leave, or give her or me a call later on. But again, finally, I want to say a big thank you to Joe Black, Mr. Black. He's a great young man, doing a lot of great work here in our community. He's one of those people that, I know our city's going to be in good hands when we do finally get out the way. He works for the Sisters of Charity, who's one of our great partners, and so, and he agreed to act as moderator, although, again, we kind of got thrown off by the technology glitch, but I want to say thank you to him, and thank you. Priscilla, thank you. She's always, always there to help out, no matter what we ask her to do. And to everybody else, again, thank you so much. And this concludes my State of the Ward.
Let's continue to clap for our councilwoman. Ms. Clean. So today we had the opportunity to hear a number of things specific to our ward. We heard about our safety concerns and challenges. We heard about food access, both the challenge and the opportunities, the current legislative work and some of the things that are on the upcoming agenda, as well as some of the development. Those are all things that we can attribute to our collective work and to your leadership. And so for that, we thank you. With that being said, I just want to give you a quick example of some of the work that I'm involved with. And I say that to say that as I begin to think strategically about an action, we often ask ourselves why. And I challenge myself and my team to continue to ask why until we can no longer ask that question. And that's how we drive to solutions. Today, I'll flip that and I'll say, we ask ourselves, who am I? And if you ask yourself that enough, you begin to get to the core of who you are. So as I listened to my councilwoman today, I said, who is Councilwoman Phyllis Cleveland? A servant, a resident, a leader, a Case Western Reserve University grad, a scarab, a lawyer, a reader, a mother, a friend, and our councilwoman. When I think about our ward, who and what is our ward? Diverse, strong, evolving, and anchored to the city. Historic, full of amazing resources, and full of phenomenal people. It is who we are and what we are that will drive us to the next phase of our future ward. And so it is our journey to work together to make this ward what we believe it is and what we know it is. For that, I thank you all. Refreshments are available in the back. Thank you.